Live! Hello everyone! Welcome to the Big Bad Development Diary.
Awesome. I'm really glad to be here tonight, Paul.
Good,
Or am I? I just
Yeah.
realized I just remember what the topic was tonight. Now I'm not so happy anymore.
I know Dan is coming in hot off of other online engagements. I hope you had time to eat some food tonight, Dan, or will.
No, I did not, Paul.
Yeah.
I did not. No, I did. No, there was no eating. There was no bio break. There was I'm just.
Jeez.
It's all one. I'm just iron streamer tonight.
That is you gotta do a little self-care there, Dan. A little self-care.
There'll be self care when I'm dead. There'll be a lot of self care at that point.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Don't try this at home, kids. That's.
So tonight on the Big Bad Development Diary, our second to last of these, we are our penultimate, the Big Bad Development Diary. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The premiere is just a fortnight away.
That is crazy. Oh my god. I can't believe that. Okay. So tonight we are covering the state of the project. We'll talk a little bit about what work we've done over the past week and how the terrifying mountain of work still between us and release. We will, for our deep dive, we'll be going into rulings, right? Like specific rules cases that we hit during the filming of this that we didn't always get it right.
It's rough rulings night. It's rough rulings night. We're going to lick our wounds over it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally, we'll be doing our character highlight on Avys the Unerring, our wizard character.
Nice. Love her.
All that and more on tonight's The Big Bad Development Diary. So, Dan, for our viewers just tuning in for the first time in, what is a show that is not going to last very much longer, please tell us, what is the Big Bad?
I don't know.
Go on, you practiced this 10 times now.
Right. No, I got it right. The Big Bad is an upcoming tournament D&D show that Paul and Dan, us two, co-DM together, and we get a bunch of our favorite streaming players to go through a common scenario week after week. They have a common roster of PCs that they get to pick from, go at the scenario, they get scored, kind of traditional D&D tournament style, and we keep a leaderboard, and someone gets announced the winner. Nobody knows who that is. I think Paul remembers. I don't even remember myself anymore. Nobody else in the entire universe knows who the winner is. And we co-DM, of course, with Paul as the fair referee, and me not paying any attention except how to murder the PCs as efficiently as possible. That's the Big Bad, Paul.
There you go. Excellent. Well done. You only have to do that one more time, Dan. One more time.
Great. I'm sure I'll perfect it next week.
That's Yep, that's how it goes. That is exactly how it goes. All right. Well, with that aside, let's jump into our first segment, the state of the project. I hope it's done. Is it done?
Is it? How many? So we have 6 episodes that we shot, and how many are we done? How many are we done editing with?
1. We have 1. And is that one even really done? Maybe not. Yeah.
No, it's not.
There is. I have a cut of episode 1 that I would be willing to upload to YouTube right now if I had to.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. And lest everyone freak out and think that we're not really going to air on time, we have the next 4 episodes after that in various states of done.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. No, sorry, the next 3. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6 are still a little murky. But yeah. And, of course, don't forget the sort of often undersold 7th episode, which will be our official award ceremony, where we will declare the champion. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
that one we haven't shot yet.
We haven't shot it, right.
Yeah.
In fact, going to shoot it a week from Sunday. A week from Sunday. Is that right?
From Saturday.
I gotta look at my calendar. Yeah. Very soon is the point. Sooner than I'm comfortable with. I've been doing a lot of setup, getting ready for that. The exciting thing is that we've invited guests from all of the previous episodes to come and join us. We're going to show some clips. We're going to talk about how each group did. We're going to maybe see if they want to compare notes and talk a little bit about how they did and what mistakes each group made or didn't make. I think it should be fun.
We kind of wanted to have a formal dinner, award ceremony, but the individual players will have to serve their own dinner.
Yeah, I'm afraid
at the award ceremony. But other than that, we got most everything else covered for an official ceremony, basically. So I'm looking for that. You know, Paul, we're reviewing lots of footage these days, and I think I was reviewing the Mad Bird episode kind of late last night, and I was like, I miss doing this. I miss doing the shoots. I'm like, and I think I went to bed last night. I was like, I wish I could do that forever. I was like, that's like kind of my favorite thing, and I kind of wish that I could just do that forever because it's really like that. Like once we really got rolling with it, it was like a hell of a lot of fun. So I'm particularly glad I at least get a little taste that we're going to get to shoot an award ceremony because wow, I miss doing the shoots now.
Well, here's the crazy thing: if the show does well. We'll have to start thinking about season 2. And if you think back on the calendar, when did we start thinking about season 1? It was around November of last year. Right? Yeah. So gonna have to get rolling right into it away.
I'm keenly aware of that. Yeah. I hope I can go to the bathroom sometime between the 2 seasons. Would be nice. That would be. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. That part of the holiday season.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Yeah, I'm excited for the award ceremony. You know, the funny thing is, you mentioned missing the shoots. I, of course, really enjoyed doing the shoots as well, but much like looking forward to the award ceremony, I think I was always just very nervous about, is it going to go well? And really only relaxed after they were all done. I went, okay, we've done them all. Thank goodness that's over. And only now can I go, well, yeah, I guess it was fun. I guess it was fun.
I totally hear that. As the tiny little bit of performance that I've done in the past, I did get to a mind state that moment of panic right before the event, like that's how you know you're alive, right? And I was like, if I ever get to a point where I'm doing this and I don't feel the panic and my body doesn't get ready for it, I'm like, I should just give up everything because that's the moment when you know I have proof that I'm actually living on Earth. That moment. So
all right.
I came to embrace the panic.
Excellent. Embrace the panic.
Embrace the fear, yeah.
Words of wisdom. So,
and it's like every DMing session, and it's like every start of a teaching semester for me, and that's I totally agree with what
this is a really great segue for me. So the thing that really gave me the most panic about those shoots is my role as referee. I recognize, in performative wise, that I'm the straight man, right? Dan's the star. Right. I'm just here for him to bounce off of. But also, I'm here to adjudicate the rules. Like any referee in any sporting event, I expect everything I do to be examined minutely and dissected and complained about bitterly. I think I'm not expecting accolades. Yeah. I'm expecting complaints and lots of them. So
it's a funny twist because I'm trying to inculcate the hate, and you're trying to be straight, and maybe you're right. It might actually be easier for me, but there's less on the line for me. So I totally get that. And I should point out that Paul's actually on camera more than I am, right? So as in standard DM session, everything anyone does, any player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or me has to go through Paul. So he's juggling. You're juggling everything, and I'm focused on just like once in a while coming in on my turn and giving some kind of fire onto the set. So you absolutely have more pressure in the show than I do.
It's a good point. I guess I never thought of it that way. You're probably right that I'm on screen the most out of anyone. Yeah. But I'm also consistently supporting the person who is shining, right? That's the way I guess I look at it, right? Someone else is shining right now. It's either the players or it's you or whatever. And I'm just here to hold up the light.
Michael Jordan needs someone to feed him, and that's and you're that for everybody. You're that for everybody.
So anyway, my point of bringing that up, of course, is that I felt a lot of pressure to get all the rules correct, right? I'm like, I better get this right, or people are going to complain. And so the question is, did I? And of course, the answer is, don't be ridiculous. No one ever gets it correct every time. Never. Please, fellow DMs, take that pressure off yourself. You will never get it right 100% of the time. Never.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes that'll be a beautiful little gem of a moment that nobody ever foresaw. And as Bob Ross would used to refer to it, he'd made a painting every day, and he'd say, "Oh, it's a little happy little accident. It's a happy little accident. Something I didn't expect to landed here." And it's funny because I'm coming off one of my programming classes, and my statement in those classes, I make a syntax error in every single program I write. Every single program I write, I make at least one syntax error. And you know what? The day that I write a program and I hit the compile button and it doesn't come back that's when I get weirded out. Then I'm like, well, the compiler's not working. What the hell is going on with this? Because I assume that there's that. Then I'm really concerned that I've got a system error in the pipeline. Because of course I'm going to make an error. So I totally agree with that. Again, DMs everywhere have to embrace that fear and be like, you know what? I tripped up last Friday and I had something that never has happened in my career of playing, and I cherish that. So, but great. Paul, you are doing a high wire act where you are doing this in front of tens of thousands of viewers, Paul. Tens of thousands of viewers are going to be watching this, looking for any possible misstep. Yep. Such as all of our viewers tonight, like William and Drago, and I'm so glad they're watching and they get to participate and see how much they hate the things that we're screwed up on.
All right, well, let's lay my belly bare here and talk about all the dreadful mistakes that I made in the filming of The Big Bad. So I have a big old bullet list. I have more items here than we're possibly going to have time for. But I want to hit a couple. And I think we're going to try and hit a couple different ones here in the range of like, whoops, just screwed that one up. Hope I get it right in the next time. All the way to, actually, I think I got this right, and I think that the rules need adjustment.
Yep.
So,
and we should also give an overview that we think that the stuff kind of balanced out. So when we look at an overview of the whole season, there was at least one trip up per episode, pretty equitably actually. So everybody somewhere got like an extra little bonus that we weren't planning on, but we do think that it more or less balances out over the season.
And you know what? I know next week, in our final episode of the Big Bad Development Diary, we're going to be talking about the scoring. And of course, I have this big old spreadsheet now that I've been playing with that has everyone's scores, and it's all worked out every point of how they got it. And I have gone through and done the exercise afterwards, where I said, well, let's play a little what if. What if I scored this differently this way, or that differently that way? And for the most part, it doesn't change the standings.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. But about what I would have guessed. But thank you for double checking that.
Yeah. I thought that's an interesting exercise. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that next week. But let's dig in. So the first one I want to talk about, because it's going to happen in episode 1, and everyone's going to see it pretty soon, is the wizard ability Shape Spell. So get my trust Sculpt spell. I believe. I think it's good. What are they called? Okay. Anyway, got my book right here. I can correct you if you're wrong. So our wizard character is a specialist of the school of Evocation. And they have Sculpt spells. Indeed, you're right. Sculpt spells is an ability. When you cast an evocation spell that affects other creatures that you can see, you can choose a number of them equal to 1 plus the spell's level. The chosen creatures automatically succeed on their saving throws against the spell, and they take no damage if they would normally take half damage on a successful save.
Yeah.
So one of the balance points of the scenario that Dan was very worried about was, if the wizard just lobs fireballs right on the enemy from the starting point, do they just win? I hope that doesn't happen. And we thought the balance factor there was that ultimately the scenario is a rescue mission, and so the person you're trying to rescue is right there in amongst the players. Surely they won't do that. But what if the wizard has sculpt spells and can just sculpt their fireball to not affect their friend? Does that ruin the balance point? And I think we both just glossed over, just forgot that sculpt spells existed. Maybe just didn't even see it during the playtest. No one tried it during the playtests, I guess.
You're correct. You're correct. And it's interesting because this just happens to be, it's almost like we planned this. This is also, directly the power of our character spotlight for tonight, Avys the Unerring, our human wizard character who's an evoker. And I made the character. I used D&D Beyond to put it together. This must have been hitting my visual receptors at one point. Guess I didn't think about it too much. And yeah, we went through 1, 2, 3, 4 playtests, and nobody on any of the playtests used Avys's sculpt spell ability with attack spells like a fireball. Yep. So we came into episode 1, and I didn't foresee it. Paul didn't foresee it. None of our testers saw it, and right off the bat, the excellent person playing it used that, and my gut just fell right out of my body, and I was like, "Oh God, the whole show is a wreck."
The whole show is ruined, right? You can see the panic in Dan's eyes as you watch that episode. No, the whole show is ruined. Now here's the thing: because it hadn't come up during playtest, it wasn't in the forefront of our heads. And so he said, "Oh, you sculpt spells," and I needed him to parrot out the rules at me to remind me what the heck it even does. And I went, "Oh, yeah, you can totally do that." And it's only later in the episode where you bring up, Dan, and I don't know if this is just your instinct kicking in or if you had the book open or whatever, but you said, doesn't he have to see the target to be able to sculpt around it? And the answer is yes. It's right there in the text if you listened as I was reading. Yes, you have to be able to visually see the person you're excluding from the spell. That's the screw-up. So we let it get by once in the beginning. Yep, he sculpted the spell around their friends and didn't harm him. And then in the second casting realized, oh wait, can't actually use that because you don't have direct visual line of sight to the friendly party that you're trying to protect.
Correct.
And thank goodness for that, because that's what saved the scenario and saved the show.
Yeah. So they got one off. So you permitted one, and I did. Yeah, I was looking at the rules, and I didn't pick it up in time in that round. And obviously, neither Paul nor I want to rewind and redo stuff half an hour later or something like that. But I was looking at the rules, and I picked it. I wish that I'd picked it up at the moment, and it took me a while to pick up on that text.
Yeah. Well, if we had staff, had somebody sitting there flipping through books and calling us on rulings while we were playing, that would be useful.
We need a third DM. Yeah, that's right, Paul. We need a third DM. We need a whole team of DMs, like on a phone line. That's great. It's a funny ability because the sculpt spell ability did exist in 3rd edition as a special feat that people could take. And the funny thing is I never liked it. I actually really didn't like it, and I felt that it actually bugged me for the sensibility of traditional D&D spells. So I was aware of it, and I stumbled into, and I guess we'll talk more about this when we talk about the Avys character. I was like, what's the best kind of wizard to make? Wizards should cast fireballs. I'll make an Evocation Wizard. Fantastic. And I didn't notice that automatically comes with the Sculpt spell ability in 5th edition. When that first got trotted out at us, I was like, oh, fuck, just ruined everything. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, we did talk about...
testers
We talked about fireballs a lot, and if you remember, we actually tinkered with the characters a little bit towards the end, because I believe Avys originally had Lightning Bolt and not Fireball. And we switched that when we made our Dragonborn character and decided that he should be painted blue. The
commissioner's office was called several times over the course of the season.
We're showing that. William says, call up the commissioner's office for the replay review. That joke appears frequently in the Big Bad. You may see a couple of requests to talk to the commission.
Paul hates me for it, but there's a whole backstory. There is a rather elaborate backstory that I wrote for what exactly is the commissioner's office and who's in it and what's the panel and what's the committee, and Paul hates that. So if you want to see more of the backstory of the commissioner and the whole establishment of the big bad. You need season 2, and B, you need to tell Paul that's a good idea.
Unlike Dan, I'm actually against players coming in with elaborate established backstories.
I'm the co-DM, Paul. I'm a co-DM, and I'm crafting a world here. I'm crafting a world. Come on.
Oh, jeez. All right, let's move on, shall we?
What you're experiencing right now is a large part of the show, actually.
Yes. It's true. It's true. Dan and Paul will argue about anything.
It's best when we're in character. I'll say that. It's best when we're actually in character, and we can really let fly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on, shall we?
Oh my God.
The second one is actually another spell.
I'll say we pivoted on the Sculpt spell, and within minutes, right, within half an hour, we knew what the correct ruling was, and we did that for all the teams, right, team 1 through 6, and
all the rest of the teams got the right ruling. And you'll see it in later episodes where somebody tries the same, actually comes up multiple times. Oh, I'm just gonna launch a fireball right there, and I'm gonna Sculpt spell.
Right.
And we go, gotta be able to see the target.
Yeah. And every time I'm very keenly looking at Paul, and I'm like, get it right, get it right. What's he gonna say? And the first time it happens, you will see panic, actual real panic. Oh my goodness.
Only had to be burnt once on that one. Second one is another spell.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Super nice, yeah.
We're going to talk about Liam's tiny hut.
Boy.
So I was surprised this was on someone's spell list. And I was even more surprised to discover that someone was the Bard. Wasn't expecting that one. So remind me, Dan, Bards don't prepare spells like wizards, right? They don't have spell books and stuff. Is that true?
Is true. So our Bard is Isiglin of the Magic Lute. And you are correct. So basically in 5th edition, it's the cleric types that prepare spells. So cleric, paladin, druid, plus the wizard do old school preparation. And the Bard has free form casting, whatever you call it.
So that's why this one screwed me up. And now you're going to see this spell get cast in an episode, and it's a dramatic moment, and it's very exciting, and we're all really into it. Everyone in the game is really into it. And we all of us missed the fact that it has a casting time of 1 minute.
I don't think it is. You know what? I'm not right this second. I'm not seeing our Bard spell list.
I wonder.
Who cast that?
You know what? We may have removed it from that character after that episode just to cut this off, because we discovered this error. No, I don't think anyone played the Bard past that one episode. I think the Bard only got played during one episode, so it doesn't matter ultimately.
I accept that.
Yep. I think we removed it because we both overlooked it and went, well, it's not a useful spell. Like, why is the Bard walking around with the spell in the book?
Right.
Here's the thing. And let me give you background here on Liam's tiny hut, especially the 5th edition version.
Yeah.
So I am used to seeing Liam's tiny hut get used a lot. I'm used to seeing it in Critical Role a lot. I used it myself when I played a wizard character in a 5th edition campaign for many months. Never seen it prepared and memorized. Never, ever. Only ever seen it cast as a ritual. And that's probably because of the 1 minute casting time, right? That 1 minute casting time basically says, you'd be an idiot to memorize this spell. Why would you do that? It's going to cost a minute. It might as well cost 10 and not take up one of your memorization slots.
Right.
So when the Bard came in with it not needing to have it memorized and was just like, well, I just cast it, I assumed that, it's not going to take 10 minutes. It's going to be instant. And missed the fact that actually it should have taken a full minute.
Yeah. Oops. That was one where me getting up to speed on 5th edition, which I've just been doing this calendar year, I wasn't fully aware of the rules around ritual spells. So I wasn't entirely on the lookout for that. Again, I put that on the sheet for the Bard. And I wasn't entirely on the lookout for that. I wasn't entirely sure what that meant. I guess I didn't scan the casting time super clearly. Now, you're telling me, interestingly, that you've seen it get used on Critical Role. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. It's very regularly in the Season 2, their wizard character uses it all the time. It's a common trope. But he always ritually casts it, like any good wizard should, because it's a waste to have that spell memorized.
Yeah. And of course, now I know, see, I had to go study up on ritual spells. Now I know that a wizard in 5th edition can cast any spell out of their entire book on the fly under the ritual rules. So you can spend, 10 minutes, I guess.
I think it's got to be tagged as a ritual spell. It's got to be a spell that is capable of being a ritual.
Nope, can be anything. That's what I had to look up.
I'll have to look that one up. But anyway, regardless,
it's one of the things that I specifically. It's one of the things that I specifically documented after my research. Is wizards can cast any spell from the book. I take it back. I take it back. Can cast any spells from the book that are rituals as rituals without preparation. I take it back. My bad. You're right.
Yeah. So the fact that it's marked as ritual is kind of moot to someone like a bard who doesn't memorize their spells anyway. So who cares?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I get it.
I assume that minute casting time is a balance factor because that is a hell of a powerful spell. Right? It lasts 8 hours. There's no saving throw. It is impervious to any entry point. I assume that 1 minute casting time is a counterbalance to the power level of that spell.
So this segues into what I was just going to say there, is the other way that I got slightly tricked is, of course, Leomund's Tiny Hut is a spell all the way back in 1st edition. And, when the very first night that we publicly, announced the Big Bad, of course, we were on Lord Gasumba's Twitch channel with Leonard Lakovka, who actually is the creator of Leomund and the original player of Leomund and the actual creator of Leomund's Tiny Hut spell. So it's kind of funny we have this little rub shoulders connection with that. And the spell has changed so much. If you look at Leomund's Tiny Hut in 1st edition, it doesn't do any combat protection at all. And this sort of is like a bit of the flavor of how the editions have changed, is Leomund's Tiny Hut is purely to make you comfortable overnight at a campsite. It adjusts the temperature so that it's a comfortable temperature. It keeps out rain. It keeps out high winds. And so basically it's just like an overnight comfort camping spell, and it doesn't do any protection against attacks, missiles, weapons, enemies whatsoever. So when I'm making these characters and I'm initially scanning lists of hundreds of spells, I spot Leomund's Hut by name. I go, I know what that is. It isn't too bad. A bard would have that. It would help with camping. That seems in character. Kapow. And I pick it, and I didn't actually know that it had such a hardcore protective value. It's an actual force field now, which is a big difference. And I think that I think you're right. Obviously, the long casting time is a balancing factor, and I didn't need to know on the lookout that either one of those things was an issue.
Right, because I assume the designers don't want you actually casting it in the middle of a combat in it as like, now I've got a portable bunker, right? They really want it for that camping. No, it's part of camping, and it's this impenetrable barrier just so that you can go to sleep at night and not worry about being jumped. But it's not about, it's not about, creating a bunker in front of the dragon so that your fighters can run in and out of it.
Right. So tripped up on that one a little bit, and I didn't catch that till the episode was over before we
it happens very near the end, and it's an exciting moment, and it feels good, and I think I almost hate to admit that there was a ruling mistake at all, because it's a delightful moment in the show.
Yeah, I got to agree.
Yeah.
I gotta agree. That one's a happy little accident, and I'm like in this world on that particular day, the winds of magic adjusted and changed, and that's what this universe was happening that particular day, and I do agree with that. That was a really kind of delightful moment. Yeah, and I also hated it, by the way, because it wasn't in my favor.
Yeah, but I think had we called them on that ruling at the time, they would have just. I'm certain that the player would have come up with something equally clever and delightful to do instead.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Yep,
I think it's probably fine.
I agree. I have that email here somewhere. Like hours later, you emailed me because you caught it. You caught it, and I didn't. And hours later, there was an email here going Leomund's Tiny Hut, and I was like, "Oh God, damn it! We did it again."
All right. Item number 3 is also a spell. This is a trend, Dan. That's weird. We're going to talk about the command spell.
All right.
Now, this is a spell you had, Dan. All of your bad guys had the command spell, and you used it pretty cleverly, I think.
I was happy. I think I was doing a pretty good job. There was a number of times when the command spell got used. Again, first edition, right? First edition, it exists there. We're familiar. Every time the edition changes, we have to kind of adjust our expectations for it. So I was trying to use it, to my benefit against the good guys, and telling them to do things that were hopefully dangerous. And there was at least two things about that, right?
This is where the rubber meets the road on the command spell, and this is really interesting because I'm going to read you the text of the command spell, and it's a little squirrely as to what the hell it actually does. Yeah. So, starts out pretty straightforward. You speak a one-word command to a creature you can see within range. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or follow the command on its next turn. Great, that sounds like the command spell we're used to.
Right.
The spell has no effect if the target is undead, if it doesn't understand your language, or if your command is directly harmful to it. Now, it's that last one that's like, wait, what? It's directly harmful to it, right? Like, I think maybe they're thinking, like, don't stab yourself, right? Like, okay, sure. Right. But there's other minor things there, like, I guess, where's the line between harmful and not harmful? Like, jump off this cliff. Right. Oh, that sounds harmful. Well, what if I'm a monk who can slow fall?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's funny because if you look in the first edition rule, right, they're worried about this, like, just make someone kill themselves. And so the way the first edition takes a stab at it is it says the one word has got to be a verb, has got to be an action verb. So, for example, suicide, that won't work because that's a noun. So they're kind of hanging their hat on this clever kink in the English language. Yeah. And so I think that 5th edition, like my feeling for that, wherever the adjustment got made, is like, maybe there's a verb in English that we're overlooking, and we better not leave the door cracked open if someone finds an English verb which is stab yourself.
Right. So if it can't be harmful, the question is then what does it do? Right. Yeah. And immediately then the further question I have is, how does it fit in the action economy? How much of your turn are you going to lose here doing something foolish or unhelpful? Okay, so we get 5 examples. Here they are. Approach. The target moves towards you by the shortest and most direct route, ending its turn if it moves within 5 feet of you. Mm-hmm. Drop. The target drops whatever it is holding and then ends its turn. Flee. The target spends its turn moving away from you by the fastest available means. Grovel. The target falls prone and then ends its turn.
I should use that.
Halt. The target doesn't move and takes no actions. A flying creature stays aloft, provided it is able to do so. If you must move to stay aloft, then it flies the minimum distance needed to remain in the air. So here's the interesting thing. Right. All 5 of those examples imply that the target does the command, and that's it, and they end their turn. And very specifically, the most interesting ones I find are like drop, which is clearly nothing in the action economy, right? That is not a move, that's not a bonus, that is not a standard action. Drop, that's free, right? But it says you drop and end your turn. Yeah, I was more forgiving in that, to be honest. And I was more forgiving in the other direction as well. And this is the one where I feel like I'm happier with my ruling than what the book seems to be implying here. But even then, I think the book is at best implying and not being explicit, right? Like the book never says it consumes your entire turn. Never actually says that. The 5 examples all happen to consume your entire turn. Yeah, I'm not sure. So what I generally did is if you asked them to do something harmful, I put another die roll behind it. And I said, you said, like, dive. Does that mean dive off the cliff or just dive onto the ground in front of me? Let's randomize that. Right. And then, furthermore, once the action was completed, I tried to adjudicate, well, what kind of action was that for you? Dive? Mm-hmm. That sounds like a move. You still have an action and bonus. What do you want to do?
Right. I'm more, so you're the DM and you get to make those calls. And so on that, philosophically, I'm like 100% comfortable with you making reasonable calls. If I was DM in the same place, and, I'm thinking like original D&D, like I tend to be a little bit harsher. Like if there's because I'm used to having more limited spells, honestly, a fewer number. So if a spell goes off, I'm used to veering in the direction of like there's a relatively big, powerful effect. So I probably would have it suck up the whole turn. But the other issue about, granted that it's only one single verb, and the specificity of, fall. Do you fall off the cliff, or do you fall on the safe side? 100% reasonable, and I totally support the die roll to interpret that.
I mean, honestly, if I was going to try and be more by the book, I mean, keep in mind this is a first level spell, so it shouldn't be that deadly, right? So I might argue that the book is going to tell me that fall is always immediately fall to the ground safely where you are and lose your turn. There is no chance that you're going to fall off the cliff. No chance. That's harmful. I think that's what the book is trying to say.
We didn't spot the text on. We didn't spot the text on nothing harmful until fairly late in the cycle, actually. So we were already debating, like at the forefront of our mind was this action economy doesn't take up the whole turn, number one. Number two, we were debating if the verb is ambiguous, how does that get determined? And we came up with the die roll, which we thought was fair. And we didn't even get to the actual text that actually says it can't be directly harmful until fairly late. And I spotted that later on. It's like, oh God, there's another thing here that's an issue here.
The action economy thing still bothers me, because then I'm gonna complicate it more and ask, like, what if I'm under a haste spell? Do I get my extra action? Or does the command spell also negate that? And I kind of prefer leaning into what I feel like is the spirit of the spell here, which is to let people be clever with the verb. Let them be clever, and then adjudicate per word what does that mean and what kind of action is it to do it. Right? I mean, you had some great ones, honestly. You get to use it in all 6 episodes, and you had some clever one-word commands that I was pretty happy with. Some of them were. There was at least one that was like, really? That's bizarre. Okay.
And I wish I could say that I'd pre-planned it. It's like it's only when I get desperate in the game do I come up with and myself is like, oh my God, I wish I thought of that before. That was that was really pretty great. So I'm pretty happy with that stuff. And that's one where at best I think you can say that it's in a gray zone about command. There's nothing there that I point to as clearly wrong. But it was tough, and we were going back and forth about the best way to handle command. Yeah.
I'm frankly still a little conflicted as to how I would rule it today in a casual pickup game with other people. Partly, I like the way we did it. I would have to make sure that I had trust with all my players to do it that way. If I have somebody who's going to be very rules lawyerly, then I think I would err on the side of, okay, nothing harmful, and you always lose your turn.
Yeah.
Because it's the lose your turn spell. But how boring does that make the command spell? Command spell is the lose your turn spell? That's not a fun spell anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that, our friend Christian, who's on your 10 Dead Rats show Thursday nights in the 8 to 10 slot right before Critical Role, was DMing a 5th edition game, I think, that I was in last year, I think. Okay, so I might have to get corrected about which close friend was DMing at the time. And we were getting charged by a whole cadre of cavalry. We were being charged by like 20, 25 horsemen. Mm-hmm. And the spellcaster cast command on one of the horsemen on the end and said left. Or whatever verb made them turn left. So the one horseman ran across the whole line of cavalry, and the DM, and I think it was Christian, decided the whole cavalry line is all disrupted. The whole bunch of them all run ass over tea kettle, and every single horseman is spilled onto the ground due to that. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I could see very clever use cases, right? Where you're talking about there's a whole unit of horsemen. Like, what if if you can command the person who calls the commands for the unit, right? Wheel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And he's going to call. The bugle guy's going to call for the, and they're going to do. They're trained, and they're going to do the thing they're told to do.
Love it. Why not? This is why you want mass combat in your D&D game.
Oh boy. All right. What do you think? Do we have time for one more, Dan?
Let's talk about. Oh God.
Yeah.
Let's talk about obscurement.
You want to talk about
the obscurement issue?
Yeah, I'm still not totally pleased about this one. There's a lot of questions about obscurement, and I think this came up again because of a spell. I think it was maybe Sleet Storm, which causes heavy obscurement, complete obscurement. What do they call it?
Yeah.
Heavy. I know there's light obscurement, so I'm assuming it's heavy obscurement.
Right. I mean, we had. I mean, there's a at least on people's rosters, there's an insect plate that does light obscurement. There's sleet storm. Someone has darkness. Maybe one or two people. Probably the tieflings both have darkness. Probably. So there's a number of things that could have caused this.
Okay, so you're in an area that's heavily obscured. You are therefore blinded. What does that mean? What does it mean to be blinded? It means that you are at disadvantage to make attacks. Anyone who attacks you does so at advantage.
Right.
Right? Okay. Right. Making sense.
Yeah.
There was, what is it? Oh, right. So I think one of the big questions for us came of, I'm outside of the area of obscurement.
Let me just take a pin on that to begin with. So again, the chain, right? This isn't all just one block of text in 5th edition, right? So the blindness rule, right? So there you go. So the blindness rule got written first. Okay, so blindness, great. You write a blindness rule. Okay, I'm blind. I don't know. My eyes are gouged out, or my helmet's been turned around. I don't know. I can't see. People get advantage to hit me. Great. I get it. I can't dodge like I normally can. I can't bob and weave like I normally can. Advantage. Now, the obscurement rule comes in for something like fog or darkness or something like that, and it just says, well, you're blinded. So then you go over to the blindness rule, and you see you have advantage to get hit. But I'm in darkness. I'm in a fog cloud, and I'm getting advantage to hit me because I'm in an obscured place and it's dark. Doesn't, like, already that starts to be like, what wouldn't it be harder to hit me because I'm in darkness?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yep. So, the question comes up of the sort of, right, so two people are in an area of obscurement, right? One attacks the other. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm at disadvantage because I'm blinded. But I'm at advantage to hit you because you're blinded. And as we know, advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out, therefore it's a straight roll.
Huh?
And so we might as well just be out in the open.
Right.
Maybe?
What?
Yeah. It's super weird. And then it gets even weirder when you start to consider, okay, it's a fog cloud. I'm outside the fog cloud, and I'm attacking Dan, who's inside the fog cloud.
Yeah.
Dan is blinded, therefore I get advantage to hit him. Therefore, it's easier for me to hit someone who's in a fog cloud than someone who's not in a fog cloud.
That's the one that bugs me the most. Where the both in the fog cloud is like puzzling, but then I'm outside a fog cloud shooting into it, and I'm at advantage. That burns me. That burns my chat.
Yeah, and then you have to answer the question of like, well, that doesn't feel good. So how do we correct that? And I start to look at things like, well, if you're in the fog cloud, like surely I can't directly see exactly where you are, right? Like at best I see your shadow, maybe I see nothing, and I'm just taking pot shots and hoping, right? So what's that? That's at least disadvantage, but I'm at advantage because you're blinded, so we cancel each other out, and it's a straight roll. Or let's say, no, it's disadvantage, or perhaps go even further and just say, well, it's just not possible, right? You can't target someone you can't see, which is generally true, right? Like, I can't shoot an arrow at someone around the corner, physics aside, or I can't shoot a spell. I can't shoot magic missiles at someone around the corner because I can't see them to target them.
Right. Yep, totally. Yeah. So we agree. So we became sensitive to this about halfway through the series. Like I think about episode 2 or 3, we had an email chain of like, my God, what's with this obscurement rule? And you, Paul, I think both did research on that, but I think you dug deeper into it and saw online forums and Reddit and stuff like that. And that is what everything that Paul just said is technically the actual rule in 5th edition, and I think we agree we would like to change that.
And the funny thing is, all of these things ultimately are in the vague area where I've looked them up and found like long Reddit threads where people debate it, and they come to the same conclusions, right? Every conversation I've discovered about obscurement says like, well, I don't like this, so here's how to house rule it to fix it, right? None of them say, nope, you have to do it as written, right? They're all like, but it's clearly broken, it's clearly wrong, you should fix it.
Yeah, that's one where since as we had Sean K. Reynolds on the talk show a couple weeks back, since his time, like 3rd edition, 5th, to 5th edition, they've tried to have brief, keyworded rules. But I think you're seeing here that when you have a chain of linkages, when you have like an index that says see this and that says CA and CB and CC and CD, there's quite likely going to be some kind of unexpected side effect. So the fact that obscurement says you're blinded and blinded says this winds up having an effect that I don't think anybody foresaw if it had just been written in one single paragraph for what happens when you're in a fog cloud.
Yeah. And in this day and age with social media and the internet, like these conversations go wide. Somebody official leaves some tweets; those become officially part of the documentation. Now the references are really out there, because now it's the rules say this, but if you find this tweet by Jeremy Crawford, you'll see that he said blah. And I hit this one. This is brilliant. I hit this one when researching Lehman's tiny hut. I found the tweet where I think it was Crawford or possibly
Perkins.
Possibly Perkins. I can't remember which one of them. One of them said, they were asked, does it have a floor? And the answer was, no, it does not. And then they came back and corrected themselves and said, I'm wrong. I just reread it. It does have a floor.
Right. Right.
And in fact, if you watch our episode where Lehman's tiny hut is used, I get it wrong and I say the whole thing's a sphere. But it's not. It's a hemisphere. It should have a flat bottom.
Really?
Yep.
Jeez, if you quizzed me right now, I would have gotten that wrong right this second.
There you go. It's a hemisphere. It's a hemisphere with a floor that is solid and impervious, just as the walls are.
Crazy. You know what? I'm gonna actually look that up again. I mean, you have to have that read at this point, but I'm gonna look that up again because I'm still surprised by that.
And it's one of those things like the casting time where it's not in the body of the text. You got to look at the little list of keywords up at the top when it says area of effect, a hemisphere.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. Am I right about obscure? Like, if to bring it back to obscurement, am I right that when we had the discussion, you actually did consciously say that you were going to rule that differently than the book? Did you?
Yeah. Well, because
am I remembering that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I basically just leaned into what I said earlier, which is, I think if you're outside obscurement looking into it, you cannot see your targets. Ergo, just not allowed.
Great.
You can, not even at disadvantage, just not allowed. Can't target them. End of story.
Nice. I like it. So
and if somebody were to say, well, I'm just going to shoot blindly into it, then I might roll some small percentage chance that you actually hit your target.
Yep, great. I love it. I love that ruling. So I think we're all in agreement that me, you, Drago, William all agree that has to get fixed. So thank you for making a good ruling.
I still have a question about obscurement if anybody wants to weigh in on this one, which is, if an area is lightly obscured and a spell gets cast that also causes light obscurement, do those stack and become heavily obscured? Or are they totally different? Right. If an area is dimly lit and now also has fog. Yeah. I don't know. I never got an answer to that one.
Gotcha.
And I don't like dealing with stacking issues, so I believe I just ruled against that consistently and said, nope, light obscurement doesn't stack. Just like double advantage. Doesn't exist.
Oh, advantage. Is that let's very briefly, let's talk about the climbing magic items, because I think that's the kind of is an interesting segue to that, actually.
It's goofy. It's a minor point, which I only discovered because I was editing some stuff around this, but we had both the gloves of climbing and swimming, specifically, and a potion of climbing.
Right.
Someone has potion of climbing. And I think I consistently asked the question a couple of times in the show of, it does basically do the same thing, right? And I get, basically the same thing. Okay, great. No, they don't do the same thing. One of them, the gloves, give you a +5 to climb checks, whereas the potion gives you advantage on climb checks. Both allow you to move your normal move rate while climbing. Well, one is +5 and one is advantage, and why? I don't freaking know. I can imagine that maybe it's because those two things could stack. You could have both a +5 and advantage at the same time, and that makes sense. I think, Dan, you were positing earlier that it was just a copy-paste error.
Yeah, in fact, I'm looking that up right now. So, yeah, that was my guess, is that in 3rd edition, right, before advantage was a core rule, any kind of rule, everything was a bonus. Yep. So, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, it was the only thing you had. So there do tend to be, in 5th edition, there was a couple. I mean, they tried to make most everything either advantage or not, but there's a couple of pieces of DNA that get copied in the text forward, and I do see that in 3rd edition, of course, the gloves of swimming and climbing gave you a +10 bonus on those kinds of checks. And we've said a number of times, actually, that I keep getting surprised by the DCs in 5th edition are generally lower, right? The challenge, the difficulty challenges in 3rd edition are generally quite a bit higher, and so having a higher bonus makes sense. So it was +10 bonus in 3rd edition, and they kept the bonus. They cut it in half, but they kept the bonus as written. And it's probably a copy-paste process.
I think it's difficulty class. I think DC is difficulty
Thank you.
class.
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, you're welcome.
You. Yeah, these new school rules. These new school rules since 2000. How are you ever going to get used to them, really?
All right. Well, we've only got 10 minutes left, Dan, so I think that we had better head on to our character highlight.
Yes, please do.
All right. Today's character is Avys the Unerring, who I frequently called Avys the Unerring because I'm an idiot.
I actually we were all doing that for one episode. I think we were calling her Avys. When we first started doing it, I was like, "Is that right?" And then everybody was doing it, and I'm like, "I can't remember what I thought the pronunciation was."
I feel less
we were
bad.
trying to say Avys.
I feel less bad about getting the name pronunciation wrong for characters that we made up than I do for the real humans, which I also do.
Gotcha. Understood.
Sorry.
Understood. So it's actually Avys. It's Avys the Unerring. And in season 2, if the Avys rental car company would like to come through with some sponsorship, we would be happy to slightly rebrand our wizard character to be Avys. But it's actually Avys. And again, all the miniatures that you see on the Big Bad were painted by Paul. And among his Renaissance man, multifarious, multi-classed, multi-skilled, he's a great miniature painter.
Well, thank you.
And I think she looks great on the table. And so, classic wizard, really, right? So again, I wanted things that would be recognizable to people across editions. We've always had wizards. That's from 1974, day one. That's been one of the 3 original classes is human who's a wizard. So I wanted the wizard to be a human, to be recognizable. And of course, when you get to a higher level, you got to pick one of the paths that your class, an arcane tradition is what it is here for wizards now. And you got to pick a particular specialty or specialization. We used to call it like second edition era. And what do wizards do? They throw lightning bolts and fireballs. So I did pick the Evocation tradition in order to specialize in the attack spells of fireball and lightning bolt. I guess we went back and forth whether she was actually preparing lightning bolt or fireball, but we landed on fireball, which is great because people can note that with D&D. I only have about 8 blog posts about how fireball works in D&D on my blog.
I mean, I like that we went that direction because it made the Dragonborn sorcerer, who was a blue Dragonborn, feel more special because he was very lightning, right? He had a lot of lightning effects, which was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Liked it a lot. And then it was funny because I was wrestling with myself as the adversary, but give someone a whole bunch of fireball spells, and Avys has kind of your classic blasty stuff. So she has fireball, she has acid arrow, she has thunder wave, and she has a wand of magic missiles. So that wand that she's holding there, under 5th edition rules, has 7 charges of magic missiles that she can fire off, which of course never miss, automatically do damage, hence the name the Unerring, among other reasons.
Are you trying to bring back the deep dive here? Because that's another one we screwed up.
Did we? How did we screw up the wand of magic missiles?
Okay, Dan, how many missiles do you get for 1 charge?
Oh God. Well, it's like 4, right? Is it like 4?
Well, the answer is it depends. It depends. If it's the first charge, you get 3, and then every extra charge on top of that gives you 1 more. Because it basically just casts the magic missile spell, and the magic missile spell says at first level, shoot 3 missiles. Okay. For every level up, you add another missile. Right. So, unfortunately, there's a weird min-maxer thing to do there of, is it good or not to dump all the charges? If it's got 7 charges in it, then completely dumping the charges gives you 10. Whereas if you spread them out...
Is it 9? But 9 or 10?
Yeah.
9,
But if you spread them out, right, then you get 21 total missiles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the one we made a mistake on. I think that it comes up and we're momentarily confused, and we have a conversation with the player. I think we get it right every time.
No, there's an earlier episode where we got it wrong. Yeah, there's an earlier episode. Yeah, I may have.
You only got 1.
No, we may have edited through editing magic. You may miss that mistake.
Well done, Paul and Russ. Russ being our amazing galactic-powered editor who does magic beyond the technology that I personally understand. So she has so she has a bunch of blasting stuff. I like that trade-off. See, now I want to get into this. I like that trade-off. There's a time-space. There's this time-space exchange. Do you get it all up front? What do you call that in finances? Future depreciation or whatever, something like that, right? What's the future value? What's the future value of 9 missiles now? Is it worth 21 missiles later?
Yeah.
I don't know. Will I be alive later? Right? I got somebody trying to kill Avys at all times. I mean, usually with that damn fireball crap that she's pulling, she's usually my number one target. I need that character gone because she's frequently the biggest threat. She's frequently the biggest threat to my hard-working villain team.
There you go.
And that character I'm unhappy about being on the board because she's friggin' dangerous.
Yeah.
And so she's got the fireballs, dispel magic. She's got fly. She can make multiple characters fly if she wants to. She's got a web spell.
I think,
and as you saw, the biggest problem of the entire damn series was her Sculpt spell ability. Yeah. That is honestly, the single most terrifying moment of the entire series.
Having both Fly and Fireball was a very interesting challenge to the players of this character, because she has, I think, 3 third-level slots, and that is a tough call of, do I blow them all on Fireballs, or do I mobilize some of the rest of my party with Fly spells? And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching players struggle with that. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. The other thing I'll just say, and I did this kind of recently, is I wrote her couple paragraph backstory, and so I was like, what do I know? And so I made her the dean of a college of magic. So Avys is actually the dean of the local college of magic. She has a bunch of trainees. She has a bunch of faculty on staff. She has a bunch of students in the college of magic. And part of her backstory is she's kind of cold emotionally, but she's ferociously protective of her students. And once in a while, if the rest of the crazy ass, the big bad team says they have some mission that they need to save the world, they call up Avys, and she's willing to take off momentarily from the college in order to do a big task. Nice. And so that's kind of close to me.
Yeah, I was going to say a little personal Dan Collins backstory going on in there. That's great.
Right.
That's great. I appreciated the little touch from Stephen Buckley of. She was interrupted to go on this adventure while trying to talk to the moon.
I like that a lot. Mr. Buckley and the rest of the Second Best D&D podcast are truly brilliant. He came up with that on the fly. You put him on the spot. He did not know. Steve Buckley did not know that question was coming up. And you said, what was she doing when she was interrupted on this mission? He came up. She was working on a spell to talk to the moon. And I'm like, wow.
Trying to talk to the moon. Why wouldn't you want to talk to the moon?
Why wouldn't you? If that's a prospect, absolutely. Yeah. That's a publishable paper. Is what that is. That is a publishable paper.
There you go.
You can get tenure for that. Come on. Absolutely. She's on an adventure in practicum. Super. Super. Yeah. I like that character a lot. I mean, okay, when I'm out of character, I like Avys a lot. When I'm in character, she's among my top opponents. She's among my top arch nemesis. I would like her to be gone, and it's tough to get her gone because she can stand off and blast, and I can't get her up close with some of the shorter range powers that I have. But I wanted her off the table. Yeah. It was hard.
Yeah, she was a pretty popular choice. I think we see her a lot throughout the series. Yeah. Not the most popular.
Mm-hmm. But who was the most popular, actually?
I believe it was actually. I believe it was Phalar the Fearless, our elven cleric.
Of course, that bastard, that clerical bastard. Everybody. Anyway,
we have one more character to talk about on this, don't we?
We do.
So at some point, I'm going to have to figure out how we're to release this, but at one point, I did actually make a chart of how many times each character appears in the series, and
you should release that.
We should get that out there somewhere.
I'll say this again, right? Okay, so we have complete stats to the entire roster of Big Bad characters on our website. You go to wanderingdms.com, you click on the Big Bad, and at this point, you'll see 11 of the 12 characters that the players had to pick from, and you'll see complete stats. You can download the PDF. You can click over to D&D Beyond and see the D&D Beyond and check out all their statistics. And so we have one character that we're going to release next week. You can deduce who it's got to be because we used every race and we used every class in 5th edition. So if you're really on the ball, you can go to wanderingdms.com and you can deduce what race and class is left over for next week.
And it's a great set of characters. If you're looking for some 6th level pre-gens, there's a great stable of highly tested, well-balanced characters. So you couldn't do worse than to use the big bad characters for your next.
And you've had
one-shot.
some of the world's most expert D&D players use them, test them before they came on our show, and give us feedback and some tweaks that we actually incorporated for things that we didn't even see, but the players who were doing their own advanced testing did. So they are among the most refined 5th edition D&D characters that you're going to see. So feel free to use them in your game as NPCs or PCs.
Yeah,
that'd be
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Tell us how it went.
So Dan, does that wrap us up for Avys?
I think it does. Avys the Unerring never misses with the damn magic missiles and never hits what she doesn't want to with the damn Sculpt spell. That whole bunch of foul words. Anyway, but I love her. I'm so glad she's on the team.
Yeah.
I like a challenge.
All of our characters' backgrounds up there on the website were written by Dan, so you can go and read through those and see just how much Dan Collins exists in the variety of characters. I'm guessing that Avys maybe isn't the only one who's got a little bit of Dan Collins backstory. We were
reviewing footage this week, and me in character as the adversary. If you see our trailer, right, you see the trailer that's on our YouTube. You go to youtube.com/wanderingdm. See the trailer that we released last week, which is really the best look at me and Paul and how we interact, how we deal with the players. And I was reviewing some footage, and I'm like, I'm a huge dick. I'm an enormous asshole when I'm in the adversary character. It's really amazing. And I think I was thinking back, when I was young, was I like a real jerk? Was I really like a real jerk when I was younger? And like now I'm just getting to shoot it into this character. I guess maybe that's my outlet. I guess so. It's kind of like this scary. It's a scary was that a possible actual personality I could have had at one point? Yeah. But I'm glad I have an outlet because wow, I'm pretty good at being an enormous jerk to people.
Yeah. Well.
Good job, Dan. Yeah, good job.
I think you did a great job. I think it's one of the delightful things about the show is that again that separation of the referee from the big bad gives you the opportunity to do that, and it gives the players the freedom to feed into it because the players love it and they love to talk smack with Dan and it gets a little heated.
It does. It really does. Which is nice. I really give them those. And it also gives space to trust you as the adjudicatory referees, that they really trust you, Paul, and so do I, that it's a hard job. Being a DM is a hard job. You're juggling so many things, plus you're dealing with making a whole show at the same time. And, I trust you implicitly that you're doing as well as you possibly can. And, one time in 1,000, you make a decision that I would have done differently with, and at no point is it wrong. It's always a fair, reasonable, using the best information. So it's really great the players put that level of trust in you, which really makes the show.
Well, thanks so much. I want to end here with a quote from our friend Drago, who says, "I can't wait for the big bad." Me either. Me too. So we have one more of these to go. Next Tuesday we'll be back here with one more Big Bad Development Diary, and then we will be going live. Premiering the Big Bad itself on October 13th. That's the 2 weeks from tonight at this very same time slot, 8 p.m. It'll be premiering on YouTube exclusively. So for those of you watching on Twitch, do realize you want to pop over to YouTube and we'll be premiering there. Or join our Patreon at patreon.com/wanderingdms, and you can watch the premiere live with us and come to the Q&A on our private Discord afterwards and talk more Big Bad, even more Big Bad after that.
Yep, we'll be talking bad right after the premiere on our Discord for patrons.
One of my
What a great
favorite
idea.
things about the title of our show is that we get to put it in front of so many things. So we have the big bad characters. We're gonna have the big bad Q&A.
Right.
We have the big bad website. It just works so well.
It really does. It really does. We didn't foresee that to begin with, but it works so well.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps us up for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Dan and I think are now going to trundle off and get back to work getting things ready. Because 2 weeks and counting, man.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Paul and Dan, frankly, execute better than, frankly, almost anybody I know. So definitely October 13th, it'll be released at 8 p.m. So we'll see you there. We'll be there.
We'll see you there.
Yeah.